this is your pilot speaking. We're on a rapid decline and the plane has split in two. Now, I'm not sure how to tell everyone this, but this plane's going down. That's right. This week we're playing The Forest, and you're listening to the Multiplayer Podcast. We are your metaphorical pilot to video games. We get you where you need to go.
We just crashed them, Todd.
That's true.
I was trying to make the jump there.
Or the fall.
They needed to go to the forest, and we got them there.
That's very true.
I'm your host, Todd, and I'm joined by my co-pilots, Paul.
Hey, what's going on, everyone?
And Josh.
Niner, 4-9er. That is a pilot term,
Is that
right?
a pilot thing?
Is that a minor term? I don't know.
I thought that was like a walkie-talkie thing.
We're going with pilots this time.
Yeah. All right, guys. We're covering the forest today. What is the forest? Like super high level. I mean, is it Rust?
No.
Maybe?
No, it's not Rust. It is survival exploration. I would actually say it's more exploration with survival. I don't know. Actually, it's probably about 50-50.
Is it Subnautica?
It is not Subnautica. I actually tried to make a comparison in my brain. We can talk about that later, because I think we should make some reference to Subnautica, but I don't want to give away any spoilers this early in the show either.
All right. That's fair.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add on top of that high-level overview is that the game's very much shrouded in mystery. So it's piecing together why your plane crashed, what's going on, and what you can discover by going around this island and discovering clues as to what's going on.
I heard someone call it open world horror. And I thought that was a very fitting title. A lot of crafting, a lot of survival, but then at the core of it, it seems like a horror video game.
I don't know. I don't know that I'd classify it as horror. It is scary? Is it really horror?
Terrifying.
It's absolutely horror genre.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I've played some good horror games, man, and this game, it's gruesome, but it does gruesome equal horror.
If you play by yourself at night, this game is horror.
I mean, maybe.
It had me shaking in my boots.
Yeah, it intentionally has creepy characters, creepy sound effects, a
weird caves,
very dark storyline that follows some common horror movie tropes. I would definitely qualify it. I think open world horror is a very good way to describe it.
All right, I'll give you the horror moniker.
Cool. Got it. All right, guys. Before we jump into the game, Josh, you have some reviews from Apple Podcasts.
Oh, man, we've got some really good reviews lately. Thank you to everybody that has taken the time to actually leave us a review. We legit read every single review that comes in, and a lot of times we actually share them and talk about them too. So it's really, we love seeing them. So, but since we haven't read it in a while, I'm going to read two tonight. And the first one comes in from Haydenators, titled, Love This Podcast. I recently started listening to this podcast at my job in Amazon, where I'm loading trucks for almost 10 hours. Ever since I found this podcast, the time has gone by so much faster, and now I look forward to my shifts, knowing that I will be able to have a laugh with you guys and learn about some games I haven't played yet. Keep it up. That was awesome. I like that one. And we all love Amazon, so thanks for the work you put in there, too, Haydenators.
Oh, I know my Amazon driver very well.
Yeah.
We were just chatting. Actually, I know this is way off topic. She was telling me that they have temperature gauges in the back of their trucks, and that day her truck was 148 degrees.
Whoa.
Yeah, so that's what we get
man.
living out here in Phoenix.
Yeah, so
Jeez.
hats off to all the delivery people and Amazon people and all those people named Haydenators.
All I hear is we need to make a 10-hour episode just for that guy.
I was going to say, I wonder how many podcasts that guy follows. We're probably one of the 40 that he has to listen to.
But we're his favorite, and that's all that matters. So, all right. And then another one comes in from the Hebrew Poet. and I can't read the title because it's too long and it cuts it off. So it's the multiplayer podcast is but it says, I'm a family man. I'm a pastor of a church, and I am very careful about what I listen to and what I allow my children to hear. Video games is a hobby of mine, and I listen to a ton of podcasts daily at work. None of them are as enjoyable as this podcast. The only issue I have is that it's not a new episode daily. Also, Destiny is my favorite game, and someone chose to murder it. Oops.
Josh.
I don't know who that could be. Other than that, it's a wonderful time with a great group of family-friendly guys. That's awesome, too. Thank you, Hebrew Poet. And I'm really sorry that I caught some flack for my Destiny 2 take.
I mean, it was a hot take.
It was. And it got me in some hot water with a few people.
Well, and we're just going to have to be honest in covering these games. I remember when Josh and I did a show without Todd when he was out on paternity leave, and we had some negative things to say about Escape from Tarkov. And I remember it was one of our earliest tweets when someone said, I can't believe I waited all month just for you to crap all over my favorite game.
And I was so upset. Like, I was messaging you guys like, I enjoyed that game. I'm sad that I wasn't there to at least balance you guys out with that review.
Yeah, sorry about that. I mean, that is the beauty. Honestly, like, different strokes for different folks. There's going to be games that people love that we are not huge fans of. There's going to be games that we love that maybe somebody tries and they're like, dude, you guys are crazy, man. I tried that game and it sucks.
Yeah,
You know?
and that's why we'll never review Remnant.
Correct. Yes, so it is obviously never personal, but it'll always be family friendly and hopefully a little bit funny for you and your family to listen to.
Yeah, we're like Jim Gaffigan. Family friendly, sometimes funny.
Yes.
And honestly, you know what, man? If you guys disagree with us, don't be afraid to call us out. Call us out on Twitter. Call us out on Instagram. Preferably maybe not on a review, but, you know, dude, we're we love having debates. We love talking about it. So
yeah,
don't be afraid.
We're very active on Twitter. So find us on Twitter, follow us, and then debate with us, because I'm pretty sure that's what Twitter's for. For lively debate, right?
Especially video game debates.
Yeah. All right, guys. And then next we have we just released it a week ago. A new Patreon.
This is where I need trumpets.
There we
or
go.
the air horn.
Sounded yeah, so we opened up a new Patreon. We got a half a dozen subscribers, or are they subscribers? Pledgers?
Patrons.
Squad mates? Patrons. That makes
Squad
sense.
mates.
Yeah, squad mates is what we call them.
Squad mates. So I'd like to read some of their names. We have Cyan Variable 360 Studios. I am Peter Parker. Avail username, aka Tyler. Decane 14, Jord the Gamer, and Andy Holloway. I like the last one because it's formal compared to the rest of them.
It's very formal. Yeah, and I really love the username, available username, because that really resonates with me as a guy who in World of Warcraft named all of my characters Warrior Paul, Mage Paul, Monk Paul, Druid Paul. So I am all for it. Sometimes you just draw a blank.
And
that's funny.
If your name is available username, then by default that username is no longer available.
It's true.
Well,
so isn't that like a
his
paradox,
name in this
then?
is avail user, not available username. We've known that from Twitch and Twitter.
Quick, Todd.
Yeah.
Use avail in a sentence.
Never. You don't own
Todd
me.
Todd's eyes just went blank when he was like, all of a sudden he realized, like, yeah, I can do that. And then he was like, oh, wait.
I did.
No, I can't.
She is
I
wearing
said
a veil. There you go. Does that count?
Oh,
Is that close enough?
That's nice.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
No, that was great.
Sorry to put you on the spot like that, Todd.
No, you're good. You're good.
Todd tried to come
Yeah.
up with a sentence, but it was to no avail.
Yes.
Oh,
there you
we go. What he said. Josh.
Yeah.
You don't control me. But yeah, Patreon. We have one. You should be a part of it. We have an exclusive Discord that you can be a part of. That's been pretty fun chatting with our fans. We've been playing games on there. I don't know what else.
Dog photos.
One of our users got a dog.
Yeah, congrats. Rescued a dog,
fact,
no less.
it can jump, which is very important.
Yeah.
For dogs and video games. Yeah, and then you can join our Patreon at multiplayersquad.com.
Do it. Do it now.
Do it. Slayer, Emperor Palpatine.
All right, guys, let's jump into the forest. All right, the forest. We've already talked a little bit about it. What are y'all's first impressions?
I'll let Paul go first, because I think Paul had a pretty funny first impression on this game.
All right. Yeah, I did already share a little bit of this story before, but I'll just quickly repeat it. Josh had played this game quite a while ago, and I knew that he liked it. Todd jumped in solo, and I was the last one to play. And Todd said, okay, I'll set up a game, come join me, and so we do that. And Todd started telling me about how creepy the game was, and how these cannibals like surrounded his camp, and then at one point they knocked him out and dragged him away. And so my game finally loads, and in this game, you can like set blueprints on the ground, and it'll show where stuff will be built, and you just have to add the materials. And Todd had built this enormous perimeter around the plane that I swear to you was 2 miles of fence.
No, it was
Todd,
100 logs max.
Oh, no, it was way more than that. It was like each post was like 9 logs, and Todd had like 600 of them. So my initial impression was, how creepy is this game that it obviously left a mark on Todd? So, and then, of course, when all three of us jumped in, the very first thing Todd did was plop down a giant deluxe 5-star log cabin.
Man.
That took us 30 minutes. So all I did was chop trees for the first 2 hours that I played the forest.
We spent so long making that stupid cabin. And then I was
it was great.
And then we promptly left that part of the map forever. About 2 minutes after that cabin was built.
Yeah. All right, guys. Let me tell you my first impressions. The plane crashes. Spoiler alert. Like, that's the first thing that happens. I come out, like, I get all the stuff, I start smashing stuff. I'm like, all right, how do I, like, look at my keybinds? How do I craft? I'm doing all this stuff. You know, make a nice little fire, a little tent to the side. And I'm like, this is a fun, like, crafting exploration game. Like, this is fun. I'm having fun. This is like Subnautica. And then these creepy humanoid monster infected zombie wolf people, I don't know, like started cackling at me. And I heard the noise first and I'm like, that's strange. And then I started looking around and then these dudes started attacking me and it was 2v1. I pulled out my axe, I swung, I took one down, and then the other one looked at me, turned its head, and then ran away. And I was like, they're coming back with more people. Like, I'm adequately freaked out at this point because I was having fun building a small village, and then it took a dark turn quickly.
Hence the giant wall perimeter that Todd built. Todd just wanted to wall off all the enemies and just sit back and build his nice log cabin. This is kind of how I play Rust. I just want to hunt animals and have a barbecue, and everyone else is running around, you know, murdering and killing each other. So I feel you, Todd.
Yeah, I mean, in the Walking Dead, like, in the Walking Dead type scenario, which I feel like this is kind of close, maybe not as many zombie-ish mutant people, but there's two types of people. One who, like, forages and just goes under the radar and blends in. And then the other person just is the governor and sets up a town, and then they just protect that town. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to set up walls, add a gate, add traps, and then anyone who comes in, they're getting taken out.
Yeah, the cannibals in this game will actually, and what's funny is when you mentioned that the one ran off, they will come back in force. Like, that's part of the cool dynamic on this game is you're constantly under the threat of these guys, and sometimes it'll just be one or two. Sometimes they'll just like watch you, which I think is creepier than them actually attacking. Like, they'll actually run up and then just stare at you for a while, but not attack, and then just run off. And then you're like, right, what the heck was that? Like, why did they just do that? Or you'll hear them like laughing, this like really weird like laugh that they do, and then they'll like crawl on all fours and they'll watch you, and then they'll run off. And you're like, all right, this is getting really freaky now.
Yeah, and then so like in my playthrough by myself, they actually took me out. They downed me, and then my screen went black, and then it like went back up, and I was being dragged, and that freaked me out. And then it went black again, and then I woke up upside down in a cave, like I was Luke Skywalker.
You're Batman, Todd.
Well, no, I had to grab my axe and cut the rope hanging me upside down, and then fend myself out of this cave, which they ended up killing me again, and then that was the end of that playthrough. And that was a weird experience because it was just a lot at once. It was terrifying, and that's why, like, honestly, I wanted to give it that like horror genre, is because if you're not expecting it, it'll blindside you and it'll be terrifying.
Yeah, one other interesting wrinkle to this game is that you actually don't even have to fight the mutants. So I think for a lot of us, your initial instinct is to start fighting them, and then they'll fight back. Sometimes they will just, like Josh mentioned, they'll watch you and then they'll just leave. If you run away from them, then they stop fighting. And so a lot of people will actually do playthroughs where they play very passively and they actually won't fight the mutants. And that's kind of an interesting take in the game, because as freaky as the cannibals are, you are also going out and hunting them in force. And so from their perspective, you're probably just as terrifying to them, running around with your giant spears that are lit on fire while you're fighting them in force. So it is kind of interesting, but it's definitely very freaky. I think that's initially the first thing that stands out.
All right, so that's a good transition. Spears on fire. You have to craft those. How's crafting in this game?
I know you guys didn't like it. I think it's fine personally. Like, I guess I should give like a quick breakdown. So crafting in this game, anytime you want to craft something, you basically go into a screen where it looks like your guy laid a tarp on the ground, and you have all of the stuff that you've gathered kind of laid around this tarp. And then you take components and you put them in the middle and you try to combine them. And if they do combine, then you get whatever you combine. So if you take like rags and a stick, you make a torch. If you take a stick and some rope and some bone, you make like a spear or something like that. And they can get more complex. You can wind up making like explosives and stuff. But I personally like the system. I like that it's like a visual crafting like that. But I don't think you guys were really big fans of that, were you?
I hate it so much. I found it to be Paul. So not intuitive, because you had to open your survival guide or this other book. There were like two different books, and one's more for crafting and the other one's more for building. And even the building book is just so hard to use unnecessarily. It's like a book that has chapters, and you'd click on a chapter called like fire, and then there's multiple pages where you can build a bonfire or a campfire or some other kind of fire. And I found it so hard to find what I needed to do. And I know that in any kind of game, it's going to take a while to learn the crafting system. But what I love in Rust is that I can just hit Q and start typing what I just want to make. And it pops up and I can immediately see what I need. In this game, it was hard to try to go back and find, oh wait, where was that water catcher with the turtle shell? And I'd have to like go through 15 pages to try to find it. I did not like that aspect at all.
Well, in Rust, there is a second crafting system, and that's the building blueprints, which like this game separates out things you build and place on the ground, and then things you build and carry in your inventory, except some of the things are hard to determine, like what is what. And then the I didn't have as much of a problem with the book and the blueprints and like putting it on the ground and then me building a wall around everything because I'm terrified. I got that.
Yeah.
The part I had a problem with is with the crafting you had to put in your inventory. I didn't know what I could build. I didn't know my options. Like, could I build a gun? Could I build like a machine gun? Am I limited to bows and arrows? I didn't know my limitations. I didn't know what the game allowed or didn't allow. And then it was a lot of like testing and then like, oh, what happens if I put a stick in a rag? Okay, let me look at my available options to build with this. And it's like, all right, well, that's dumb. Let me put something else in, or let me put a skull in there. And then we hit this point where it's like, we have so much stuff on our screen.
Yeah.
I don't know what's what. Like, I don't know where to click. It was very unintuitive. And there was even a point where, like, I mean, Paul, I'm going to sell you out.
Oh, go for it.
You didn't know you had dynamite? Was that
correct?
What it was?
Yeah.
The old dynamite fiasco.
Because it was
I
hidden
told you guys.
in the bottom. Yeah, Paul's like, I picked up
found
dynamite.
I can't find it.
And then
Can
we're like,
we
all right,
tell that
let's blow
story?
up
Because
this
that's
thing.
not to pick on Paul, but that was pretty funny.
All right, Josh, go for it.
So you need dynamite at some part in this game. Todd and I are down exploring a cave. Paul is off somewhere. I think, weren't you on the surface,
I was in my
Paul?
own cave.
Yeah,
no, I was in my
Paul
own
was
separate
off
cave.
in his own world. He was in some cave. He got split from the group, but he was just rolling with it. Todd and I find this area that you need to dynamite through. So we're like, oh, we need dynamite. A few minutes later, Paul's like, found dynamite, guys, got it. And we're like, oh, sweet, that's exactly what we needed. Like, all right, come back to us, Paul. So then there's this whole like mission to get back together. Paul finally makes it back to us. We run him all the way through the cave. We show him where the big boulder is that we got to dynamite through. And Paul goes, well, I can't find my dynamite, guys. And then we're like,
yeah.
Paul, did you pick up flares instead of dynamite? Because they look similar. Like, to what Todd was saying, they do look very similar. So then we're like, man, you had flares, you didn't have dynamite. And Paul's like, no, man, it is dynamite. I know I picked up dynamite. Yeah. And so for the next 5-10 minutes, we're searching this cave to try to find a stick of dynamite. We eventually give up. Paul winds up making like C4 instead out of like 20 different components. And then later on, it's like, Paul, dynamite is at the bottom of your screen when you pull up the crafting menu. And Paul's like, what? And he looks and he's like, oh yeah, look, there's the dynamite guy.
But it was so hard to see.
Yes. Like Todd said, you end up with so much crap in this game because you are picking up meat off of animals. You are picking up 10 different kinds of plants, aloe vera, marigolds. You are picking up turtle shells, bones, sticks. And your screen gets so cluttered. I'm mousing over all of these things because it's not in like a grid like Rust. In Rust, I see my grid in my inventory. I can mouse over each one. And in mine, the dynamite sticks halfway off the screen down in the corner. I couldn't even find it, even though it was in my inventory. But my number one issue with the inventory system, can we talk about how you set hotkeys in this game?
Oh, that is terrible. I'm with you guys 100% on that.
Is this not the worst system you've ever seen how to hotkey? Do you want to talk about how that works?
Top 3. Yeah. So in order, so you have a hatchet and like you can use your hatchet and then you build a spear and then you have this dilemma. How do I switch between my hatchet and my spear? And for 5 hours of gameplay, what I would do is open up my inventory.
Yep.
And then click on the spear.
Search for the spear for 2 minutes first.
Right, because it's on the far left, half the spear's off the screen. And then I would click it, and then I'm like, man, this is going to stink when I have to fight someone, but I'm also like doing other things, like switching back and forth. And I'm like, guys, there has to be hotkeys. And then Josh was like, oh yeah, just combine it with your book bag. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then it turns out the way you have to switch between items is you have to put the item in there and your book bag in there and then hit combine, and then it will ask you 1, 2, 3, or 4, what hotkey would you like to bind this to? But there is zero explanation in the game on how to do this.
Yeah.
You just have to stumble into it.
It was infuriating.
It's terrible.
Because you have to craft to make a hotkey. Who thought this was a good system? Why can't I just open my inventory and do a long mouse press or hit a hotkey and then assign it? It makes no sense. And Todd and I were in the same boat. At least we finally learned that you could hotkey. I thought they were permanently bound to my painkillers and chocolate bars because those are like what they default to. I legitimately did not think you could change it.
I thought he had a drug problem because I just hear him popping pills nonstop in this game. And I'm like, Paul, you should lay off of those, man.
Yeah, instinctively, I'd want to hit 1, 2, 3, and yeah, it was all accidental.
I think that's like at the core of this game, they want to drop you in not knowing anything. There's no tutorial. There's like a little bit of like, here's how you craft a campfire with like the book, and here's how you survive. But they don't take you through like the mechanics of the game or like key bindings of the game. And I think that's where it really hurts. Like I could be okay in another world with combining stuff to hotkey it. But when they don't tell me that I need to do that, then like I feel stuck. Like, I feel abandoned at some point because I don't know everything I need to know to play this game.
Yeah, this game does not hold your hand at all. Like, I think they really went for realism with this from just the moment the plane crashes, boom, you're in the woods. You better figure it out. Like, there's no tutorial. There is no, like you said, hints on the screen or anything like that. And I don't even remember how I learned that you combine the backpack with certain items to hotkey them, to be honest with you. I just knew that. But that is, to this game's detriment, I think they're going for that like hyper realism, which I get, but it's also a video game, so like why make things difficult like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it's for the intention of realism as much as it is lazy. I think there are a lot of things in this game that are incredibly lazy. For one, the storyline. This game, you crash on this airplane, and what's your main objective that you're told? Because you have a little to-do list. And what's your overarching immediate goal?
To find your son is
to find your son.
Right.
Do you know anything about your son? Do you care about him at all?
No, absolutely not.
Well,
5 hours into this game.
He's next to you on the plane.
Oh, that's true.
Crashes.
They did have the 15-second snippet where he like looks at you and then falls asleep on you.
You see him for 10 seconds, but there is no even attempt to try to make you care about this kid. You just see that he's sitting next to you, and then all of a sudden the plane crashes and you see that he gets kidnapped. So I felt like the story was lazy, the inventory system is kind of lazy. I had a lot of major issues with this game all over. I don't know that I'd let them off the hook by saying it's for realism. Your character authored a book on how to survive in the wilderness. Like, your character is supposed to almost be like a Bear Grylls type of guy, and so it shouldn't be difficult to figure out how to build things and how to survive. They should explain that better in the game, I think.
Yeah, I feel like it's a hard line on how you want to do a crafting system. There are so many different ways, and I think there are a lot of different acceptable ways, but you have to explain it to like the new person joining the game. I mean, Rust is at fault for this too. Learning how to play Rust takes 30 hours. It takes a long time to learn how to build a base, except for some reason I was willing to do it on Rust, and for some reason it was hard to do on the Forest.
Well, I think in a game like Rust, there is something fun to pulling out your blueprint and you're seeing the building build in real time. You know, you're laying out your foundation, you're putting up your walls and all of that stuff. And in the Forest, it's not so much that as much as fiddling around with your survival guide for 2 minutes, and then you just automatically build a pre-built structure.
Well, they had walls and foundations and roofs and all that, except we had zero incentive to do it.
Yeah, because you don't need it, so there's not a whole lot of point.
Yeah. That's the big problem with the building system in this. And I mean, there is a creative mode to this game that you unlock after you beat it. But building things in this game just don't really serve a big purpose other than allowing you to sleep through the night and save your game. Like, that's it.
Right.
Like, I mean, like Todd said, maybe you got some comfort if you know, from the cannibals on the island, and so you can feel a little safe there. But there's not that. It's not a critical part of the game by any means whatsoever. So it's almost like, why did you spend all this time making the system if this system really isn't important to the gameplay?
You even find sleeping bags and tents all over the world where you can save anyway. So it does seem completely unnecessary in a lot of ways.
Right. Well, that goes back to like what we were talking about in the beginning. We pick on you for the gigantic, you know, log cabin that you built right in the very beginning that we had to cut down 1,000 trees to feed. But then once that's built, we left 2 minutes later.
Yeah, we slept and left.
Right, yeah.
Well,
I mean, that was it.
But we stayed one night in my luxury resort.
It's probably because we were so tired from cutting down trees.
No beds on the inside.
Let's talk about the exploration for a little bit, because this game, I mean, in the beginning, I would categorize this game as an exploration survival.
Right.
Right?
And something that was interesting is I didn't know this game had complex caves until you brought it up, because you had gameplay before us. But a lot of the exploration is inside of these cave systems where these mutant zombie-ish people live.
Yeah, I mean, these caves are enormous. These are not where you just go down and explore it for 20 seconds and leave. There are multiple places to climb down further and further and further. And there are multiple entrances and exits. And you also fight some mini-bosses. So I think I know I've been very critical of the game up to this point, but I thought one of the really cool aspects of the game was like the first time you run into like the spider woman boss down in the caves.
That was terrifying.
Yeah. That's like a really scary enemy, and they're pretty strong. And even when we had 2 or 3 of us in there, you know, we would get hit a couple times. But yeah, you've run into these weird little mutated baby creatures that are crawling around.
Things are so freaky, man. Like, those things are weird.
There's some freaky monsters, but I thought that was really neat because you don't really have any indication that's coming. You're just down in these very dark caves, and you turn a corner, and all of a sudden you're fighting these new mobs. And I really enjoyed that. That was one of my favorite parts, was exploring the caves.
And it was kind of fun, fun and frustrating. Like, I was using one of my clubs as a torch because I would wrap a cloth around it and set it on fire. But then as soon as I started attacking something, my torch would go out because that's what I was using to attack. And then I was stuck in this weird rhythm where it's like I can either see or attack something, and I need to choose wisely. So all my attacks had to be on purpose, and I need to make sure that I took it out because my torch was going to go out and I needed to build a new torch to continue down this cave because it's pitch black.
Yeah, that's something that the cave systems, I think the caves are one of the cooler parts of the game. My complaint there is that they are dark, man. Like,
so hard
dark.
to see.
You get a lighter that never runs out of fuel, but that lighter only lights up about a 3-foot area around you. You can't see squat.
Yeah.
You can make a torch that helps out a little bit, but you still can't see squat. So you get to where you're just like feeling around the outer wall of the cave because you can't see anything in these caves.
But that was fun.
It is fun, and it adds to the atmosphere and the ambiance of the game. But I'm going to have to complain again because I pulled out a flare, and I learned you can light the flare and just walk around with it. And the flare lights up the cave exactly the same amount as your little Bic lighter. And I kept saying, this is so stupid. This is a flare. You can see these things from a mile away in the middle of night, and I can't light up these tight corridors in this cave.
I do remember Paul just going like, guys, what's wrong with my flare? Like, why is this flare why is it not working? Like, it's a flare. It's supposed to be really bright. And Todd and I just cracking up because it was like, nope, that's pretty dull still.
It should light up everything. It's a flare. That's its job. But yeah, the caves were very creepy. I was not happy when I got separated from you guys. If you remember, it was right after we had woken up after saving the game to bypass nighttime because nighttime kind of sucks and it's terrifying and you can't see anything. And so in the morning, Josh said, yeah, we went into the cave right next to the tent. And so I saw a cave entrance and I ran to it, but it was actually, they were separate cave systems. So I was solo fighting all these mutated monsters by myself. And I gotta say, I do enjoy this game a lot more with strength of numbers. It's just a little more, it's less stressful. You guys know me. I don't really like super stressful video games, and this game is stressful if you play solo.
It is. Yeah, it definitely will freak you out and get your blood pressure up a little bit. My thing, like, the caves are really cool. They're probably my favorite part of the game, but like I think it was our first major play session together, all three of us playing. I mean, we were streaming it on Twitch for a little while. Mm-hmm. But we were just stuck, like, in the world, just running around looking for something. And we ran forever. And we looked around. There's no map. We don't have a compass. We don't have a map. You find those later on. But I think we spent a solid 30, 45 minutes just running through the woods, like looking around for something. And we couldn't find anything. And to me, like, that was just boring, man. That was a boring intro to this game because it was like, what do we do? You don't get any guidance. It's not like you don't get told like, hey, go try to find a cave system or, hey, go look for the snowy mountains or anything like that. It's just run around and hope that you wander across something that points you towards what this game is about. And if you don't find it, you're just running and you have no idea what you're doing, like, at all.
Yeah, with this game, you have to have a lot of patience. That's just at the core of it. Like, it's a lot of fun. There's enough to do, but then progression is slow. But on the other side of that, once you know what to do, like, I watched a video where the guy ran through the game without any glitches, cheats, or anything within an hour. So like this game doesn't take long to beat. It's just you have no idea what to do. So all of that time is searching around, looking, slowly progressing for like, what do I do next? What do I do next? Oh, I explored this area. And it's almost like progression through like searching. Like,
yeah, but that's a bad way to progress because you can
stumbling
search
into
forever.
progression.
Yeah, like that's
accidentally.
Just, you asked me about Subnautica in the beginning of the show, and to me, Subnautica does it so well. Like, there is progression in Subnautica, but it's little bits and pieces, and you always know what you're supposed to be working for. You may not be able to find the components for it very easily, but at least you know what you're supposed to be doing.
Well, and with Subnautica, what they did really well is you unlocked more and more complicated designs for vehicles and weapons and all of that. In this game, you start with access to everything.
Yeah.
Like, there is no progression in, like, building stuff because you can build everything from hour 0. And that's hard to figure out when you're at hour 0. It's like, what can I build? And it's like anything. And you're like, okay, well, what can I build? And it's hard to answer that question.
Yeah, that's very true. I know that we've already kind of gone for a little while about the game, but is it all right if we just talk a little bit, not including any spoilers, but just talking a little bit about how the storyline works? Because I do think that it's, in one sense, you could call it lazy, which I would probably make that case, but I do understand somewhat the appeal that the game doesn't really just hit you with like long cutscenes where someone explains the whole story. Like in this game, you will run across copies of emails that you can read from certain doctors who were here in years past. And there are little snippets and hints as to what's going on in this. I'm trying to avoid using terms that are somewhat spoilerish, but out here in the forest. Like, you're not the first ones there. People have been there before. You definitely run across, structures that other people have built and things of that nature, and you can start to piece together what's been going on. Maybe you're not there so accidentally. Maybe there are some things that you want to do while you're there. And so that aspect is kind of neat, but it does require that you do reading, and you have to pay attention. If you're just going to find part of the ship manifest and you're not going to look at it or read it, then you're going to miss out on that storyline, and it won't really make a whole lot of sense unless you want to consume it.
Yeah, I will say this game has a neat story. It progresses in a way that I think is very interesting towards the end game, and I like that a lot. But it is a very slow burn to get to that point. So if you're okay with that slow burn, I think the story can be rewarding for you, and I think it can definitely raise some really neat questions. Like, we're not going to spoil anything, but we all talked about some of the neat aspects of the end of the game and what we thought about that.
Right, and there's multiple endings.
There is, right. Yeah, there is branching
cool.
to that, some choices that you make matter.
But I think it's interesting, like, you can play this multiplayer up to 8 players. And for me, as soon as you go multiplayer, the storyline's out the window. Like, It's so hard to make a progressive storyline that leads to, like, everyone solving it and working together. I think it works way better in single player, oddly enough, for the multiplayer podcast. But like, multiplayer, I think, thrives with just goofing around, building like creative sandbox.
Yeah, in a weird way, it's almost kind of like RimWorld in that sense, where it functions better single player.
Well, you can't sell kidneys in this game.
That's very true. You cannot.
All right. So I think we got a good glimpse into what we think about this game. Paul, I think you have some reviews from the community.
Yeah, I do. I have 3 reviews here that I'm going to read from Steam. I will say that I had a real hard time finding family-friendly reviews that I could read, because even though we haven't touched on the specifics of the storyline, it is incredibly dark. And so the subject matter is actually quite mature. And so I actually had to read through quite a few reviews here, but I did find some decent ones that I thought were funny enough. The first review here is a positive review. It's basically a game about locals trying to protect their forest from illegal logging.
Those are the guys that found Todd on his
Yes. That would be our impression if we quit after the first 2 hours, because that's all we did was chop trees.
Yeah.
That's
fair.
All right. Second review is positive. I found a sea turtle and I named him Sam. We played games together. We laughed. We cried. The darkness came. I got hungry. I ate Sam. 10 out of 10.
Sam is delicious.
Oddly enough, sea turtles super useful in this game. You can use their shell to catch water. You can ride on a shell down a hill.
Yep, sure can.
Which, so much fun. But yeah, I mean, sorry for Sam, but good for that guy.
Yeah,
you know, he didn't die. Good for him.
Yeah, and it can also be said that as you hunt animals, you also can create trophies that you can hang. And so sometimes you're walking around holding animal parts, which is interesting. All right, and then the last review that I have here is a little bit longer. It's a positive review. I think Todd will really like this one. Being a mid-20s male who doesn't really get scared off movies or other similar things, I thought that this would be the perfect game. Kind of like a grown-up Minecraft, but with nice graphics. Boy, was I wrong. I'll never forget my first encounter with the cannibal tribe. I was out here checking the wonderful graphics, looking for loot, setting up shelter, and minding my own business when I heard that scream/laugh. I'll never forget it. I turned and I saw him staring at me, and for the first time in my life, I was having a miniature heart attack from a video game. I ran to my cabin but was shaking so badly that I couldn't use my mouse to direct my guy to safety. I played for a few more hours and went to bed. That night, I had nightmares about the cannibals. I woke up my wife repeatedly after dreaming about them. I see shadows at work and panic briefly. Never has a game affected me in such a way, and I would recommend it to anyone. 10 out of 10 would get PTSD again.
Oh, man.
So you found my review.
Yeah.
Written by Todd.
Different Todd.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that is my experience. It, like, if you're not expecting it, it blindsides you. And it is amazing and terrifying. And even with me saying that, I think people will still get lost in like, oh, how do I craft? How do I build? How do I do all this? They'll run out of time, and then monsters will be there.
Yep.
And then it'll freak them out. Every single time.
What's really cool is, or you just turn around and realize they've been watching you for a little while.
Oh, yeah.
And then, yeah, so that's just as terrifying, really.
Or you wake up and they're staring at you through the window of your cabin.
Yeah.
That can happen too. It's pretty wild. All right, and then we always guess what percentage of reviews we think are positive on Steam. So user reviews, what do you guys think? What percentage are positive?
Who won last time?
I did.
Todd.
Was it
Todd?
Todd?
You're first.
I win a lot, if you guys can't tell from
I don't remember anything.
Who's Your Daddy? Is that the name of the episode?
You did
That's
win
the
that.
game I
I
wanted
still
to win.
say that was the wrong choice, but
Oh,
right.
Get out of here. I'm going to go with a 78%.
All right, 78 for Todd. What you got, Josh?
I'm higher than that. I'm going 86%.
Oh, wow. I had written down 87%.
Ooh.
And I think this might surprise you guys. 94% of
Wow.
reviews are positive.
Wow.
Really? That is surprising to me.
Very, very high. Yeah, this game is beloved.
Maybe,
Wow,
I mean,
94.
maybe this is honestly one of those games that you need to sink 100 hours into it. And once you do, it's just fun. Like, I could see that, but like figuring out the crafting system takes 100 hours to figure out.
Yeah, you very well might be right. Maybe you have to just trudge your way through it the first several hours, and maybe it gets better. But yeah, we did not have the most fun time playing this, or at least I would say I didn't. So there you go, 94% though from the community. Most people love it.
Well, Paul, you know what you win.
Ooh, baby. Paul.
Ooh, baby. It's time for Make Love, Marry, Murder, a game that we certainly do not play with people, but it's just our funny way of trying to rate video games here. So, we take a look at a game, we decide, is this a game that we want to commit to and marry long term? Is it a make love situation, or is it murder? So, maybe I should just go first. Do you guys want me to get mine out of the way?
Get it out of the way.
Uh-oh.
Man, I feel like I'm murdering games left and right on the show. Murder it.
Okay. After GTA 5, you got in a very murdery mood. You've been murdering games.
We let him play too much Grand Theft Auto.
I've been rewatching The Sopranos lately. I wonder if that's feeding into it.
That's it.
This game is so frustrating. I could point to 1,000 different things. Honestly, I think my number one complaint, and this is not even a joke, is that if you find fresh water, you can't just run up to the water and drink it. You have to find the one secret place around a pretty big lake where you can actually drink. Because you can get even like dirty water and then boil it on a fire and then drink it, but you cannot fill your pot or drink straight from the lake unless you spend 3 minutes running around, going up and down the shore trying to find it. I found this game to be so incredibly frustrating. I did not really like the storyline. I did not like the darker elements of it. You guys know that's just a personal preference of mine, but it's a straight up murder for me.
Because not darker emotionally, but darker as in the graphics are dark.
Absolutely on both ends. Yes. This game, I am going to rope it in with so many other games that are just dark, both literally and figuratively, like GTFO, or we covered something else recently that was both. Yeah, I don't like... Oh, you guys are making me play Dead by Daylight. So you keep feeding me these games that I can't see, and they're stressful.
We'll
and
get you used to the darkness, Paul.
I don't like it.
You liked Until Dawn, didn't you?
Yeah, I enjoyed Until Dawn. Yeah, that's a rare exception. Yeah, that's a good point.
All right, so there's a light at the end of this dark tunnel.
Turn your gamma up, Paul.
Maybe that's the problem. I'm going to max it out.
All the way.
I'm going to go over to Paul's house one day, see that his monitor's set to like -20 gamma, and then be like, Paul, this is why.
Oh, goodness.
All right, Josh.
Me? All right.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that this is a make love game. I'm higher on this game than Paul for sure. I think it is a well done game. I think it fits a certain genre that if you want that or you like that genre, this is going to be a game. I mean, 94% on Steam. I had no idea. That's really high, but that goes to show you that there is a lot that people could like about this game. You have to be ready for the slow burn. Like, that's what I'm going to keep calling it, because if you don't mind just wandering around a giant island, and then maybe after 30, 40 minutes, or maybe after 2 hours, coming across something that you needed to find, that progresses exploration or maybe a little bit of story or whatever. If you're okay with that, then this game's going to be great. It's got very good survival elements. The graphics are really nice. It's got some cool mysteries. It's got some very neat, like, whoa moments. Combat is neat. There are boss fights in this. I mean, it's really kind of a complete package. There's definitely some failings. I'm not as negative on the crafting system as you guys, but I get it. I get that that's a frustration. I laugh at Paul not being able to figure out how to drink out of a pond. I didn't seem to have a problem with that.
It was not figuring out. No, you ran around that lake for a full minute, and then you said, Paul, I finally found a spot. Come drink right here.
I mean,
that's a true
finding
story.
Those spots and then leading you to water. So,
yeah, it should not take a minute. You just run up to the water.
The story. This is not Subnautica. Like, Subnautica to me is a phenomenal game. I love that game.
It's mystery, not horror.
Right. That's
but
I'm saying in the survival kind of exploration genre, Subnautica would fall into that as well. But I think it's a good make love game. I'm not going to play The Forest long term. I don't think it's worthy of a murder because I think it does have a lot to offer. So that's where I'm putting in that make love category.
All right. So for me, as the multiplayer gaming podcast, keyword on multiplayer, I'd say make love. Because with, 2, 3, 8 players, for me, this game plays best as an open world sandbox where you goof around and kill monsters. Trying to play it as a serious exploration game with 8 people seems insane to me.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't seem like it's built for that. Playing it as a solo horror video game with exploration elements, like, that seems like what it's built for more than multiplayer. So, like, multiplayer-wise, I'll say make love, because I think you can get a lot of fun. I think you can build a lot of stuff and, make a 2-mile-long wall to fence yourself in and goof around. And I think you can get a lot of fun out of that. And there is exploration and crafting. And, like, it's... Like, we gave it a lot of crap, but it's top tier compared to some games for that. But yeah, I'm gonna leave it at make love. Let's go to the leaderboard. Going off of Paul's gleaming recommendation for this game,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna start low. So 20 Civ 6, 21 Minecraft Dungeons, 22 Halo Reach, 23 PUBG, 24 Sea of Thieves, and dare I say it, 25 Overcooked 2. Paul, start it off.
Oh, if this was up to me, it would be below PUBG. I would have it third to last on our leaderboard.
You'd have it above Sea of Thieves.
I have it
above
Sea of Thieves.
I thought you would at least say it's worth, like, Sea of Thieves is worth the download space.
No, Sea of Thieves is just so limited that there's no way I can justify ever playing it. At least in the forest, it has a storyline. I don't particularly like it, but there is an element of driving you to keep playing the game, even though I don't personally like it. I would rather fire up the forest than Sea of Thieves. I would probably prefer to play Overcooked, personally. But for me, the forest, I would probably put there between PUBG and Sea of Thieves.
Todd, that means you and I need to be the voice of reason here. When I look at this, I'm comparing this in my brain to... I kind of waffle a little bit. I'm somewhere in the, like, near RimWorld or GTFO, but maybe somewhere around, like, Human Fall Flat or Civ 6. Like, so for me, I think it's in that, like, 16 to, like, 20 range.
That's...
Are we close?
Yeah, that's a good spot. For me, it's really close to Josh, and I'm putting it under PlayerUnknown's Battleground.
What?
Josh.
Both of you guys? Oh my goodness, you guys.
Oh, no. Okay, all right. I'd rather play this than PUBG. I'm putting it under Halo, though.
It belongs under Halo, I think.
But can you guys not appreciate what this game is crafted?
Paul,
I get it. Maybe it's definitely not for Paul because it's dark.
It's crafted terribly,
and maybe it
makes
makes
riddled
Todd poop his pants a little bit, But it's a solid game, man. Like it's a well done game.
It I don't know. It in some aspects it's amazing. Like it's a good game. But then there's these shortcomings, like not being able to find inventory or not even being able to know what you can craft. Like figuring out what you can craft is like difficult to find out in this game. And that's a majority of the game.
You do realize in the crafting system, if you put a stick in the middle and then hover over the stick, it tells you everything that you can craft from that stick.
Yeah, a list of 38 different items because sticks are used in everything. It's not helpful.
Well,
I will give the forest atmosphere. They did a great job at crafting atmosphere. Everything else is crafted terribly.
Yeah.
I would see putting this like above Minecraft Dungeons, maybe. I really don't see it putting it that low. But I
Minecraft
mean,
Dungeons
maybe
is
I'm
fun.
outnumbered. So
I'm 23, under Halo Reach, above PUBG.
I would never want to play Halo Reach over this game. So for me, I'm higher. But if you're both at like 23, 24, I can't overrule you guys.
Yeah, I think it has to be below Halo Reach, which I can't believe we're doing this 2 weeks in a row.
Wow,
But
we've grown soft, Paul. All right, well, are you putting it above PUBG or below PUBG?
I'll leave that
Above.
for both of you to vote. I would put it below. Todd would say above.
I'm fine with above.
What would you say, Josh? You get to decide. Is it
I-
23 or 24?
This is gonna sound so
decision.
stupid now, but I fought for this to be higher. But if I'm forced to put it low, I think I'd rather play PUBG.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like
Really?
honestly, if you're saying, Josh, play one of these two games, I'm gonna pick PUBG because it's just a better multiplayer experience than the Forest is.
I'd rather goof around in the forest and just build stuff and like lay traps and build
I'd rather
bows
play
and
Rust,
like
though.
PvE.
If we were gonna do that, I would just say let's play Rust.
Yeah,
But
Rust
I
or
want-
Raft. Or
I
yeah, any
want
of these
yeah,
other.
right.
Rust. I want Rust on a purely PvE server. That would be my like ideal, and I feel like this is a step toward that.
Yeah,
Do they
I
make
need
PvE
the
servers?
PvP.
PUBG. I don't care. Like I said, it's funny to me because I wanted to rate it higher, but then when we put it lower, I was kind of like, well, let's put it really low because I'd rather play. Like honestly, I'd rather play Sea of Thieves too. But I'm higher on that game than you guys are too. So
All right, let's
I'm just
put
going to
it
default to you and
24.
Paul on this one.
Let's put it 24, right under PUBG.
I already saved it as 24, so I'm
Boom.
glad.
Paul.
I'm glad that's where we all landed.
Wow. All right, guys. Well, that wraps up the leaderboard segment for our show today. If you want to view all of our rankings, you can find them on our site at multiplayerpodcast.com. Also, if you want to get in touch with us, we are very active on Twitter at multiplayerpod. And we started streaming on Twitch at twitch.tv /multiplayerpod. It was fun hanging out this week, and if you're interested in more multiplayer podcast content, don't forget to subscribe to the Multiplayer Podcast on your podcasting app. Next week,
Bonus
we
round.
or not next week. Yeah, next week is bonus round. Sorry, I got it in a routine. The week after that, what game? What's our next game we're reviewing?
I'm kind of hoping for No Man's Sky personally, but
Yeah. I thought that's what we
I thought we
landed on.
agreed. Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
good. All right,
And we
So-
announced that on Discord. So if you come support us on Patreon and have access to Discord, you would see that we announced that No Man's Sky will be the next game that we cover.
And Paul, what is No Man's Sky?
Oh goodness, I don't even know how to describe it. You're in space, you run around, shoot stuff with lasers, you fly around and crash, and your friends try to sabotage you every step of the way if you're friends with Josh. So
please tell me
It
we got
was
footage
very
of the
funny.
crater that I dug under Paul's spaceship.
it's
the other
on
day.
Twitch. I think
Okay.
we can
Oh,
cut
do we
a
have
clip
it?
from it.
We're gonna
yeah.
have to cut that because
yeah.
It's amazing.
sorry, Paul, but it had to be done.
Yeah, long story short, you're an astronaut, lots of exploration, crafting, flying out to the stars and beyond. So we'll have a lot to talk about.
All right, guys. See you Monday.
You sounded confident there, Todd.
Monday.
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 See you, everybody.
I love that we did that at the same time.